Blog Talk Radio.
Oh, it's time to get real. Oh, yeah. It's a new experience. Reality, spirituality. Yeah, keep your ears open for this one. Reality, spirituality. You got a question for RLN? Reality, spirituality. Yeah, it's time to get some answers, baby. Reality, spirituality. Oh, now we get real. Reality, spirituality. Yeah, it's time to get down. Reality, spirituality. Yeah, you gonna feel good now. Real good. That's what I'm talking about. Time to get real.
Welcome, everyone. Yes, I'm 3 minutes late. Welcome, everyone, to Reality Spirituality. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Rebecca L. Norrington, Rebecca Lynn Norrington, and I am the world's only happiness specialist. And what does that mean? Who would, happiness specialist, what is that? Well, over decades and decades and decades of being miserable, of looking and searching and wanting to find answers to, how can I feel better? I just wanted to feel good, and I wanted to feel good all the time. Is it even possible? It's the same. Is it even possible? And what I've discovered in this long journey that continues, and it is an evolvement that never ends. I'm telling you, growth, evolving, expanding never ends. As Abraham says, you're never going to get it done. It's always something new to practice. It's always something new to discover. And all of the practice and all the discovery starts with self, starts with that person in the mirror. Now, for my new listeners, and I'm getting a lot of new listeners, I appreciate it. Maybe people are talking, but for my new listeners, I just want to share that I have been wanting, when I was younger, I wanted two things: to live to my potential and to be happy. And this being happiness, I'm taking it. It's my only commitment, people. It's my only commitment. What do I do listen, I got chores to do. I've got, things that happen in life to do, laundry and everything else. But this living consciously in every moment is a practice. Being happy or experiencing more happiness is a practice. It's actually a skill that you develop. I don't care what your expertise is. We all are good at something. Even if it's talking, or even if it's listening, or if it's writing, or if it's singing, dancing, entertaining. If it's tax, taxes are due. Even if it's a CPA, all of it takes practice. And what I'm talking about is really, if you really want to commit, if you really want to feel better, I'm telling you, when you commit to this practicing, and when I say practice, I mean practice eliminating what subtracts from happiness, and then you practice what adds to happiness. It's really that simple, eliminating the behaviors. And I'm yelling at you so early. Happy Easter, everyone. Happy Easter. It's really about eliminating all of the things that subtract from happiness. And the only reason why we are behaving and doing and saying and responding in ways that subtract from our happiness comes all the way back to the programming. My first book, Reality Spirituality, The Truth About Happiness, it was published in 2014. I'm not even the same person. And what I've discovered is one of the big reasons that I've had so many challenges is because of the programming that I received. You can say programming, brainwashing, conditioning, beliefs, all of that has contributed to this unhappiness. one of my biggest issues, one of my biggest challenges, one of the things I was programmed to do. I mean, I lived in a house where if something happened I'm talking about between my parents, there would be, and I would experience this silent treatment. I mean, there were times, I remember my mother wasn't talking to my father wasn't talking to my mother, you know, the cold shoulder routine, you know, the lips, you know, you're pouting and now I'm not going to talk to you. And now I'm not going to, until either number one has to happen, until you apologize to me. I know my father was big on apologizing. I mean, hearing the apology, I've never heard him offer an apology, but definitely he was big on, listen, if you did something to me that I perceive is, you know, you've got to come and apologize to me. You've got to come and say, I'm sorry. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about forgiveness and why it's so important, and also how to forgive quickly. But before we get into that topic, I want to invite you to call in and ask me questions about what's, you know, life. How can you be happier? You're welcome to call in. The number here is 646-564-9619. Again, the number here is 646-564-9619, and just press the number 1, and you'll get to speak with me live. Now, let me just back up a little bit because it is Easter Sunday, and one of the things that I remember about Easter, and Easter was a huge, huge holiday in my house. When I say it was a huge holiday, I'm not really even talking about the religious aspect. I'm just talking about all the traditions. Yes, I would wake up and there would be an Easter basket. You know, just magically, it would have magically appeared. Now, for my audience that doesn't really relate to any of that, the reason why I bring it up is to remind you that we are all so different. We are all as different as our fingerprints. And looking at or experiencing someone else is really, it's impossible to judge someone else because I haven't lived in their skin. The judging someone else, the judging another person and their behavior and looking out at their behavior and making a comment on it and or criticizing it is really a reflection of you. It's really a reflection of self. And one of the reasons why I can't judge anymore, or listen, I practice not judging. I'm not saying it's I got it 100%, but it's definitely a practice, is because I'm living in this world when I was younger. Easter baskets appeared. Every single Easter Sunday I would have a brand new outfit, from the socks to the ruffly underwear to the new dress to the hat to the gloves to the patent leather purse matching the patent leather shoes. And Easter was really something to look forward to because of that. And then, of course, you would have the family gathering and the family dinner when people would, family would get together. And that was another day I remember that I had to go to church. And, if you didn't go to church all throughout the year, I had to go to church on Easter. It was a big deal. And what I found out later on in life is this obligation to a holiday. I'm talking about any holiday, from Easter to New Year's to Christmas to Thanksgiving to 4th of July, all of these holidays. And this behavior that this is how I behave on this holiday, I mean, when you really think about it, it's a little robotic, what do you think? Everybody, it's Easter, now I have to go to church. It's Easter, now I have to fill in the blank. And that's another thing that I've had to let go of, which is the importance of all of these man-made holidays, man-made activities, this programming of how to behave on a certain day. And I'm telling you right now, and I know, because it happened to me, and I'm like everybody else, that I've had some disappointing holidays. I've had some disappointing Christmases. I've had some disappointing Easters. And that disappointment comes from having expectations. So what I want to share is the programming is real. The beliefs are real. It's so deep and ingrained that I didn't even realize I was following a program. I didn't even realize that I was a robot. And I didn't think for myself, and I didn't act on my own. I was acting based on what everybody else did and what I did when I was younger. And keeping these traditions, having dinner at grandmother's house every year for 40 years. Listen, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just trying to shake everybody up and say, are you doing this? Are you behaving because of a program, or are you truly inspired to go to church, have a family dinner? What I'm saying is I just want. Listen. It's such a passion of mine. I just want you to behave in a way, not behave in a way, but recognize that there is a reaction to and there is a response to anything. And the reaction comes from, okay, this happens, it's a holiday, and I have to do A, B, or C, or D. I just want to shake up the programming, my dear audience. That's all I'm trying to say. And just be more mindful, be more conscious of it. Forgiveness. Now, since it is Easter, I'm going to bring up a story which is one of my favorite stories about Jesus. This isn't a show about religion. It isn't a show about any of that. But Jesus actually taught some really valuable lessons. Some valuable lessons that will add to your happiness. And when I say happiness, I'm not really, that word is, I remember I was talking to my son last week, and he said, Mom, I used to hate when you use that word happy, your happiness special. I hated it. And finally he says, I hated it because I wasn't happy. I was miserable. And so if that word happy bothers you, I'm not trying to pretend why, but it is a good clue. I really wanted to be happy. I really wanted to be at peace. I really wanted to feel a balance. Same thing to me, happiness, peace, balance, relaxation, feeling a sense of satisfaction, all the same thing. Same thing. One of the things, one of my favorite lessons that Jesus taught, and everybody knows it, but let me share it with the way I look at it. So here's a man who is really all he's doing is speaking all his life, right? Speaking and for what? To try to get people to listen and understand his teachings. And his teachings of what? Salvation, redemption, forgiveness, really how to be happier, how to be connected. Same thing. At least that's my perspective. And the poor guy, after 3 decades, 2 decades of teaching, didn't they crucify him when in his early 30s? All he was doing, the guy wasn't a criminal. The guy was up here sharing his wisdom and his knowledge. But lo and behold, no, that wasn't working for the masses, or it wasn't working for the powers that be. It wasn't working for the rulers. And so Jesus was condemned and sentenced to death by crucifixion. Jesus, I can't even imagine. Can you imagine having to die like that? So on that day, when he's carrying his own cross, being ridiculed, being scorned, being humiliated, nailed to a cross, stood up. I believe he was speared and mocked and just like he was a rapist or a murderer. I mean, he was treated like shit. And through all of that treatment, in the middle of all of that, he was able to say, Father, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. That's some powerful, powerful words, and that's a powerful request. And that's what I'm saying. Do you really know what you're doing and why? What is your motivation for getting angry and not talking and not speaking to somebody and giving them the cold shoulder? What is the reason for that? The reason stems from pride. And when I say pride, I'm talking about this false pride. I'm talking about this negative pride, this pride that means absolutely nothing, that pride that actually, that you're the one drinking the poison. These people that, and I got my left hand in the air, trust me on this one, because I could hold a grudge for years. I could hold a grudge for weeks, for days, for years. If I perceived a slight, and depending on what it is, people, you just don't know. You just don't know who I used to be. I would not speak to you. I would see you and not speak. Can anybody out there relate to what I'm saying? Before I go into how to forgive and why it's important to forgive quickly, I want to share a story, and you can look it up on YouTube. And in fact, it's maybe 2 minutes, at the most 3 minutes of a scene. And I've told this story on the air before, but it deserves repeating because it is one of the reasons why forgiveness, instant forgiveness, is so powerful. And it's about the Green River serial killer, Gary Ridgway. Green River killer. And you just go on YouTube and you search Green River killer crying. And he murdered, they don't know, from 40 to 70 women. They were mostly prostitutes. And, of course, when they finally caught, this is over decades. This is over 3 decades, I believe. And when they finally caught him and he was up for trial and he's been sentenced, to death 1 million times, there was a chance for the surviving family of the people of the women that he murdered to speak. And, of course, family members got up and they're cursing him and go to hell. I hope you rot in hell. I hope you burn in hell. I hope you're tortured. All of that. And I have to say, I used to think the same way, is that these people out there doing these kind of acts need to be tortured. Which is another programming of quote unquote what's just. What is justice? Well, let me tell you something. The universe will be the one to, what do I want to say? Pass out that justice. The universe will. they found Saddam Hussein in the hole. So the universe has its own method of, I don't want to say punishing, but dealing with these people. And so while Gary Ridgway was listening to all the family members, curse him and damn him and wish him the worst, there was one man who said something different. And what he said, because I'm going to let you look at the video if you're interested, what he said made this man, who was never remorseful about any of the women that he killed, never felt a thing when he was listening to these people tell him to rot in hell. But when he heard what this one man said to him, he broke down and started crying. I'm going to let you look that up. And if you don't want to look it up, it has something to do with forgiveness. And forgiveness is that powerful, not only for you, but for anyone else for whoever you're forgiving. If you've listened to the show, you know that I living in Oregon at the moment, and my neighbors, I had a whole brouhaha with the neighbors, and their dogs were crapping in the front yard, and animal control was involved. Well, that was months ago. Listen to what the universe did. 2 days ago, I didn't know people could message me indirectly. I mean, people that aren't on Facebook. I didn't know people could message me. I found a message from my neighbors that they wrote out in October. And actually, a really nice message inviting me to speak at their community services. Just a very nice message. And when I read that message, because now after the whole thing with the animals and animal control, my neighbors don't speak. They don't speak to me, whether I wave or whether I say hello. I mean, it's the cold shoulder all the way. And I read this message and if people don't speak to me, what can I do? But I am not going to take on what they're giving out. Just because somebody doesn't speak to me, and just because somebody is angry at me, and just because somebody doesn't want to have anything to do, and when I say have anything to do with me, I'm still going to speak. I am not going to allow my ego or my pride to dictate how I'm going to behave, and I'll tell you why. This pride, this false sense of thinking that, well, I'm right and I'm not going to speak because of you just fill in the blank, is really a position and a vibration, is a position of bondage. You're free when you accept, when you have open arms. I don't care how anybody talks to me and or treats me. I am not going to do the same thing back. I'm just not. Listen, years ago I did. Oh, hell yes. But I'm not going to do it anymore. So let me just tell you, after I read that message from my neighbors, I decided to, because, again, they haven't spoken to me. And I'm going to read to you what I wrote to them. And the universe actually gave me this opportunity to reach out again and to reach out and break the silence, if you will. Let me just read this. Greetings, I'm not going to say their names. Greetings, neighbors. I just read your message to me from October 4th, introducing yourselves and inviting me to speak at your Sunday services. I know we've had a rocky beginning. However, I'm more than willing, like the Bible teaches, because that's another thing. It's really interesting, these people that go to church and are active in church, but then they're not going to speak. But then if something happens, they do the whole cold shoulder thing. So, listen, I'm not saying it's contradictory, but Jesus said to forgive, and he was put through hell. Anyway, I am more than willing, like the Bible teaches, to forgive. I've had a chance to speak all over the country, and I'd like to accept your offer to speak at your church. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I was talking about I have a powerful speech about forgiveness that I would love to share. And I say I practice what I preach. I say going forward, and I talk about. And coincidentally, these neighbors didn't speak to the previous people that were living in this house too. That's another story. I said time is a blessing, and I'm glad we have time to begin again. We are neighbors, and one day we may need each other. That being said, let me be the first to extend the proverbial olive branch. Going forward, I'm hoping you agree to fostering a neighborly relationship. I look forward to your response, and I look forward to sharing what I've learned about forgiveness on any given Sunday. And I also look forward to acknowledging you and saying hello while you're outside, walking the dogs or wherever. I received an email back, long email back. One of the things that pride does and the ego does, it insists that we're right about everything. Come on. I'm speaking for myself. I was always right, and I was ready to argue that point till the end, explaining why I did something, giving the reasons why. This need to be right ties into the same thing with the inability to forgive, ties in with the same thing with this false pride, ties into the same thing with cold shoulder. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm right, they're wrong. Well, I have to say this. Because I've committed for a lifetime now to wanting only to be happier, to have peace, to be balanced, to vibrate this energy of satisfaction, relaxation, contentment. Same thing. Number one priority, because life will happen. Life will happen with all of its bows and arrows shooting in my direction and hitting me. But what about being able to feel rooted in peace and happiness regardless of what life throws? What was my point? Oh my goodness, I lost my point. Okay, let me just get back to I received a response from my neighbors. Oh, I remember now. And even though the neighbors admitted, well, one of them admitted that they were allowing their dogs to come into the front yard and shit in the front yard. One of the things that the neighbor wrote, which is really interesting, he says, I'm glad that you reached out, and I'm glad that we can put this, we can move forward. But I don't think, I want to read it. I want to read it exactly the way he wrote it. But I don't think, blah, 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 blah. Enough said for now. Oh, here we go. I do not see either of us inviting the other over for coffee yet, but at least we have established a more civil base, which is a relief. See, number one, he says, I don't see either of us, meaning me and his family, having each other over for the coffee. Just because someone else, just because you can't forgive quickly or you can't forgive overnight, there is no reason for I can't speak for anybody else. See, that's one of the things I used to do. I usually would speak for other people because I wrote back and I said, very short, very easy, very short and very clear. I said, contrary to your belief, you are both welcome in my home anytime. However, I do respect and understand that you need more time to forget the past. With all that said, I'm glad we can put this behind us. If you ever need me, feel free to call, and I gave my number. Just because you are behaving in a certain way, the assumption that other people behave in that way is just that, the assumption. But I will say this, my dear audience, I will say this, that I can predict 98% of the population, I'm sorry, are programmed to respond just like that. Well, I can't get over it overnight. I can get over it, but it's going to take some time. It's only going to take some time because your ego and your pride is really dictating your behavior. And let me share this. No moment is promised. No future moment is promised. And I'll never forget, this was about 10 years ago, and my soulmate, we were having a disagreement. And we don't have disagreements anymore, but at that time we were having a disagreement. And I say that we don't have disagreements anymore because the more you evolve, there's nothing to disagree about when you accept someone else for what they do and who they are and how they want to behave. There's nothing to argue about when you accept someone else. There's nothing to argue about because then you realize, oh, that's them. That might not be me, but that's them. But back to the story. He you know, when you have a disagreement, when I had a disagreement, you know, there's a day that goes by, 2 days that goes by, no call. You know, when you're used to talking to somebody every day and you don't talk to them because there's some kind of something in the air, some disagreement, some problem. Oh, I'm not talking to them. Oh, they haven't called. Well, we're not speaking now. You know what I'm talking about. Well, we're not speaking. Same pattern, same programming. My soulmate called me and he said this, and I'll never forget it. He says, I'm not going to wait to speak to you until things have cooled down. I'm not going to wait one more minute because I love you and I don't have time to wait based on ego or based on pride. And that hit me right in the gut because, my dear audience, I'm telling you, I could hold a grudge. I was queen of holding a grudge. I must have a Guinness Book of Records for holding a grudge. I can't hold a grudge anymore. I don't care what you do or what you say. I am ready to forget and forgive instantly, and it is a practice. It is definitely a practice. Speaking to my son just yesterday, he says, Mom, I get tired of being the first one to call. I don't want to be the first one to call. I don't want to be the first one to call back. Let me tell you something about this pride. Let me tell you something about this ego's pride. Pride does not want you to be at peace. Pride does not want you to be happy. Pride does not want you to forgive. Excuse me. Pride does not want you to forgive, and pride certainly does not want you to forgive quickly. This notion of, well, let time heals all wounds. Huh? I've known people that it's been years, and I can speak to them, and they bring up what happened years ago. This holding on to grudge is only hurting you. Holding on to something or grudges is only hurting you, my dear audience. It's like drinking poison every single day and expecting the other person to feel it. So I want to say that once you practice, scratch that. Number one, once you are committed, once you make the commitment to prioritize peace, happiness, contentment, balance, the vibration of satisfaction, there will be no time, there will be no room to hold a grudge. This thing about saving face, and I can't be the first one, and I have somebody that doesn't speak to me. Listen, I've had a few people that don't speak, and they still don't speak to me now. I've had a woman that is so angry. She saw me at a funeral for one of her relatives, and she didn't speak because she was still angry at what happened 10 years ago. Even when there's a death in the family and you can't speak, that doesn't say anything about. Listen, we all have to live our own destiny. And the more you hold on to things that are actually destroying a cancer in your system, a cancer for your happiness, a cancer for your peace, you're allowing your ego and your pride to dictate your behavior. The more you practice letting go and the more you practice holding your arms out, I've got both of my arms out now, holding your arms out like you're ready for you're ready to forgive, you're ready for anyone. It's the same story. It's the same, another story from the Bible. Oh, wow, two stories. This is actually the Old Testament about the prodigal son, where there was a father who had two boys, and one boy was one of the good doers. He stayed at home and helped the father with the farming and the sheep and helped the father out. And the one boy went out and he's like, hey, screw this, I'm going out and having some fun. Went out and partied, went out and did whatever he did, whatever he wanted to do. And when he decided to come back home, what did the father do? The father didn't even mention, why did you leave? Why did you, leave me with all this work? It's just me and the other boy now, you left me with everything. Why did you leave? What were you doing? None of that. It was, let's throw a party. My son's back. My son's back home. Let's throw a party. My son found his way back home. No questions, no debates, no, what do they call it? What do they call it when, no closure. Oh, I need closure. No conversation. None of that. When you live in the moment and you realize the value and the preciousness of each present moment, bringing in that past of, why did you and I can't forgive you, and letting in it doesn't even matter. Who's more happier? Someone who can forgive and forget, or someone that holds on? And let me say, it's not your fault, my dear audience. It is not your fault because you were programmed. Somebody taught you how to hold a grudge. Somebody taught you how to stay angry. Somebody taught you how to not speak. I've had so many things happen and people saying and doing things to me that, believe me, if you did this back in the early days, you'd be toast. No. I'm eager, willing, practiced enough to commit to wanting peace and happiness in every moment. Now, does that mean you're talking about the people, and it doesn't go back to, and it goes back to, you still recognize that everybody's doing the best they can at any given moment. We all are doing the best, I can say that, doing the best we can with the information that we were given, with the programming that we were given. We're doing the best that we can in each moment. With all that said, I'm challenging you to grow. I'm challenging you to do something different than you've always done in the past. Either you're a robot, following the programming, doing the same things, or you're willing and wanting to expand. Now, listen, my hand's up in the air because I'm telling you right now I have a conversation with the universe all throughout the day. And when I feel like when I feel I want more, I just ask the universe, hey, how can I be more accepting? How can I trust more? How can I be more conscious? How can I feel I'm trying to say, how can I feel? How do I feel more content? And with all of that said, these words, content, peaceful, happiness, it still comes down to the vibration. And we all are vibrating, and we're all vibrating at a certain frequency. And that frequency of not being able to forgive or having pride and letting pride dictate your behavior is a frequency, you can feel the difference. It's not very freeing. It's the opposite of freedom. Whew. How do we forgive quickly? Commit to wanting to be happier. Because when you want to be happier, when that is your number one priority, you will have no choice other than to forgive and get over it quickly. But if you don't have that commitment to really who you are, you know, I've told the story about the younger. You look at a baby, you can tell a baby anything. You can insult a baby and a baby's family. Baby's not going to hold a grudge. All of that holding a grudge, not letting go, is again a programming. And when you're following the program, you're going to follow the program right into a brick wall. You're right into a brick wall. Ooh. Reality Spirituality. Reality Spirituality is heard every Sunday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm available to speak. Contact me at info@RebeccaNorrington.com. My vision is to share the importance of happiness, the truth about happiness workshops all over the world. And if it happens, great. And if it doesn't happen, that's okay too. Because whatever the plan is, my destiny, my plan is, it's all driven by the universe. And I've accepted that. I've surrendered to it. I acknowledge it. I quit planning, people. I quit planning. I quit having goals because my goal is the same goal that the universe has for me. My intention is the same. My goal is the same goal that the universe has. My plan is the same plan that the universe has. And guess what? I have no idea what that is. So that's another practice, being okay with uncertainty. I have no idea what that is, but I'm okay with however it evolves. Hey, they've done pretty good so far. Of course, I would have made some edits, but I digress. Follow me on Twitter at RL Norrington. My Instagram handle is Reality Spirituality. My YouTube channel is out there. Yes, I'm on YouTube, but, I need to add some more videos. I'll figure that out one of these days. My book, Reality Spirituality, The Truth About Happiness, can be purchased on Amazon.com and or Lulu. If you want a hard copy, Lulu.com, Lulu. Until next time, my dear audience, I want you to remember who you are. You're a physical extension of the universe. You're always evolving. You're always changing. You're always growing. Love is patient and love is kind. Be patient and be kind to yourself. Be your own best friend. Remember, you cannot have a happy ending to an unhappy journey. It is about the journey. My second book is I'm writing it as we speak. I've got a lot of stuff written, but I haven't put everything together. But it's going to be called Program for Unhappiness. And I just want to leave you with that. If you're doing something, same things that you've done year after year after year after year, and if you're not recognizing the programming, or if you're not really adjusting, and wow, what's really exciting is wow, this used to really bother me. Doesn't anymore. That's when you know you're growing. And that is the purpose, is to grow, to expand, and then to share what you've learned. Thank you, everybody. Reality Spirituality. Love you all. Happy Easter. And let go of that. Let go. Take off that chip on your shoulder. Reality Spirituality. Have a great week.
Yeah, it's time to get real. Oh, yeah. It's a new experience. Reality Spirituality. Yeah, keep your ears open for this one, man. Reality Spirituality. You got a question for RLN? Reality Spirituality. Yeah, it's time to get some answers, baby. Reality Spirituality. Oh, now we get real. Reality Spirituality. Yeah, it's time to get down. Reality Spirituality. Yeah, you gonna feel good now. Real.